Josh Booty, welcome back to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Hope you're doing well.
Thank you very much, man. It's always a pleasure to join you guys. So I'm excited to talk a little football and whatever else you guys want to talk about.
Well, no, we want to pick your brain a little bit. I mean, you're a guy that played for Nick Saban, and, we're always in awe when you look at 5 out of the last 9 years, Nick Saban has won a national championship, and sometimes we kind of lose adjectives to try to describe this dynasty here in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, what he's done is just quite the incredible run. I was around USC when my brother was there, and of course he played after Leinart was a quarterback in the Pete Carroll era, and then there was Mark Sanchez and some really good teams at USC. But and those felt like some unbelievable times. Of course, we watched the Miami dynasties with Dennis Erickson and Jimmy Johnson and Butch Davis and that group. But I think it all pales in comparison to what Saban's been able to do at Alabama. And I do talk about this a lot because I was able to play for Nick and of course Jimbo Fisher was there as well. But they did all the little things. They did all the little things that gave them the best chance to win. And they did it every day of the year, not just every day of the season. And my dad's an athletic director. My brothers, they're high school football coaches and stuff. And I tell them all the time. And I had a brother that played under Nick as well at LSU. He was a wide receiver. I don't know if you remember him, but he was a great player at LSU, and he was on that team as well. And that's one thing we talk about all the time is the attention to detail. But it goes so much further than even that. It goes into recruiting. About 3 years ago, I'll tell you a quick story. I don't mean to be long-winded, but I was driving through Tuscaloosa and called up there to see if I could stop by and just say hello and see if Nick was there. And the secretary answered, and she goes, "Honey, he was gone at 5 this morning. He's going to be in 6 states at different high schools recruiting." And it was in the off season. I said, "That's why the guy wins championships, because he's just a machine." He also told me one time, "All I need is 2 or 3 hours of sleep, Josh. I just don't require that much sleep." But think about that. He puts way more into his day than most people do. So, it all goes back to how hard he works.
And Josh, this is going to sound really weird, but I've been told, and I don't have the football mind that you do. I mean, you played in the National Football League, quarterback understands the game, but they look at Nick Saban's system that it's not over complex. It's just that attention to detail. I mean, they don't run something like world-renowned plays in Tuscaloosa. It's just attention to detail and maximizing every single play.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think simplicity is a big part of why he has success, but yet he coaches the finer points of that simple approach. I mean, he plays hard-nosed defense. He's got front four that's going to get after the quarterback. He understands every little facet of the game. He knows kicking game is so important, and it's going to come down to that at some point during the season. I mean, every little thing. He likes to practice every little thing. There's no stone unturned. There's not a lot of coaches that encompass all that. If you really think about, especially at the college football level, I think at the NFL, there's just so much. There's better coaches. There's more time to prepare. There's more time to look at different situations. You have a different amount of time that you get to spend with your players in the rooms with the film and all that, and you break down so much in the NFL. At college level, you don't get those kids that much. They have class. They're younger. What can they retain? I think he's been able to put together the perfect recipe for success, and with what these kids can retain, especially at the kids that he's getting, and they're great athletes, and he's trying to recruit smart athletes. But a lot of times these kids aren't the smartest guys in the world that are playing for him. They're just the biggest, fastest, strongest. So for him to get them from point A to point B is just a testament of what he can do with them in a short amount of time, because you don't have the time to prepare like you do in the NFL and practice on a daily basis and watch film. So there's a lot that he's doing behind the scenes that people don't get to see, but all they see is the finished product, and that's him whipping everybody's tail every week.
You were there when Nick Saban took over at LSU. Did he use words like the process and things that we've come to kind of expect? Was that part
same stuff? He's never changed it. That's one thing. He's consistent with his approach. He's never changed it. Sure, he's matured some, and now he's got a lot of championships under his belt. But we heard the same stuff I hear in every press conference that I see him do, and even behind the scenes, that's all he talks about. He hammers that stuff home, on a daily basis. He hammers the same stuff home. You're almost tired of hearing it, but it's what an 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kid needs to hear. Is they need it ingrained in their system. And he's such a system guy. He created his system. Yeah, he runs the whole dang show. But you have to work hard, buddy, or he is not happy. And so that brings another element to the whole thing. One thing that I think that no one talks about is he ingrains common sense stuff to the players that a lot of other coaches they don't talk about. They think these kids, know the situations or understand some of the stuff that goes on in a ball game or in practice that you can learn from. They just expect that the kids know this stuff, but a lot of these kids, they don't know. They need it ingrained, the common sense stuff, and that's the devil's in the details. But a lot of it's common sense stuff that these young kids don't even know yet. And Saban's been around pro ball, and he's coached his whole life and been in the biggest games in the world. So these kids, they listen to him, man, and he gives them all the common sense stuff that they need, and he preaches it over and over and over. And a lot of these coaches, I think they leave stones unturned. He doesn't.
Josh, when you talk about the relationship that Nick Saban had with quarterbacks, can you kind of walk us through that relationship? Because you guys are kind of the hands and eyes of the coaches on the field and in that huddle.
Yeah, so I think as far as quarterback's concerned, with the offense that he likes to run and the system that he has in place, and he knows what he wants from his offenses. Don't make mistakes. Don't put his defense in bad situations. Punting is not the end of the world. Sometimes it's a good option. Things like that he preaches, where one play at a time. Get the ball into the right person's hands. Let them make the play. The quarterback doesn't have to do everything. He has to make the right call. He's got to get everybody lined up. He's got to get the shifts and motions right. He's got to read out the defense, but don't try to do too much. I was kind of a player like, at the college level, a little bit like, I don't want to say Brett Favre, but I was kind of a riverboat gambler in the way that I played. And so I was always trying to do the impossible if it wasn't there, and trying to make stuff up that wasn't there if it wasn't there. And he brought me back down to planet Earth, in a lot of ways. And says, listen, get it to the first guy that you see open through the read, and so he pays attention to all the QB stuff, even though at practice he's on the defensive field all day long. I mean, we would see him when we come together for inside run, 7-on-7, or blitz, or team stuff. But when it comes down to the basics, he was on the defensive field, and we didn't see him for half the practice. So, and then when Saban talks, you have to listen because he's the head guy and he's getting paid a lot of money. But that's one thing that he really, would reiterate to me and to some of the quarterbacks that we had. Or, of course, take care of the football. Don't make stupid mistakes. Get it into the playmakers' hands. That's why they got scholarships, too. And I remember some of that stuff being preached to me, all the time.
Josh, I bring up this next story, and by no means, I'm not trying to be negative by no means. You were an NFL quarterback. You're a high school guy that was an All-American coming out of Shreveport, Louisiana, Christian Academy, high school All-American, went on to play the NFL. You played 5 years in the Marlins organization, so I'm not trying to point out this one little negative moment. But Nick Saban used your name a couple of weeks ago and how you handled that with Rohan Davey. You were playing in a Peach Bowl and did not have a good game, and you were pulled. And Nick Saban used a lot of, and I don't know if you even heard the audio, but talking about your attitude with Rohan Davey, and it's kind of similar to what's going on here with Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah. A similar situation happened to us at LSU is what happened with Jalen and Tua. And I did hear the press conference right after the game because I like watching all that stuff, post game. But we were in Atlanta that's 2000, playing the Peach Bowl. First half, I think I was like 10 of 20, 120 yards. We put a field goal up on the board, I think, but we weren't doing anything offensively. And I hadn't turned the ball over, but I had gotten sacked like 3 or 4 times. And we had a left tackle that was supposed to play in the ball game, Brandon Winey, and he was a little banged up. His agent wanted him to sit out the game for draft purposes, so he didn't start the game. And we just didn't move the football. Jimbo, he was calling plays, Fisher, and it was a lot of play action down the field stuff, and I just didn't have any time in the pocket to sit there and wait on some of that stuff to open up, and so we weren't successful in the first half. And then the second half, Saban made the call. He says, I'm going to give Rohan a chance at a couple of drives to see if we can get some momentum going. And Rohan had been around LSU too for 4 years, and he was a captain on the team and wasn't even the starting quarterback. And so the kids loved him and played hard for him, and they were all his best buddies. Well, he goes out there. Well, Winey, our left tackle, comes out of the stands pretty much and felt bad because I was getting sacked every series, and he padded up and went back out on the field at halftime to help the team. He felt like he was letting the team down. He saw what was happening. And so he goes out there, they put Rohan in, and Jimbo starts calling a lot of quick plays, and Josh Reed took a couple balls to the house, and then it opened everything up, and protection was there, and Rohan we went off, and he actually won MVP of the game, and I love Rohan to death, but the whole game changed. And so that happened again. It was like 2.0 with Tua when he came in the game. Of course, Tua's a much better thrower than Jalen. We all know that. Jalen has had a great record, but Tua gave them that element that they needed. And I think that's what happened back in 2000 is, Winey came out, Fisher, changed the game plan up, and Rohan had a great second half. And it was like this, identical type of scenarios where first half sputter, second half, a lot of points. And so I did go through that same situation. And all I tried to do was, be there for the guys, man, and enjoy it with the guys, because you just know how hard everybody works, all season, in the off season, and everybody's buddies. Whether it's you making the big plays or not, you're still a part of the team, and that's why football is an amazing sport.
But Josh, be honest with us. 18 years later, how hard was it? I mean, how hard? Because you can kind of feel what Jalen Hurts put that smile on him.
I sat there and felt it. I felt it for him, and he handled it with the utmost class. I mean, I still think about that situation. I wish, I could go back and I would, because I felt like I was a much better passer than Rohan, but I love Rohan at the same time. So I was happy for the team. I wish I would have said to Saban, let's go back out here. I'm gonna go out here the first drive because I was the starter. I should have stood up and said no. And then if he said no again, there's nothing I could do. But I wish, I was like, why did he do that? I questioned what he was doing, but I didn't. I should have been almost like, a pitcher on the mound. A manager comes out to pull him, and because he doesn't think he's got any juice left or something, and pitcher has to say, no, I can get this guy. You know what I'm saying? Let me go at this guy. I should have told Saban, let me go at these guys. That's the only thing I regret is that I didn't start that third quarter and maybe things would have been different. I don't know. I mean, who knows? That's 20 years ago, but that's my only regret was that I didn't say, no, you ain't taking me out of this ball game. I think now with my personality, that's what I would have tried to do.
So we're talking Nick Saban, and you talked about what he wants from his quarterback and not go out and take too much risk. But now you got a guy like Tua Tagovailoa that can spin this thing. What can Nick Saban do with an elite, big-time quarterback at Alabama? Because we know the talent around him. And A.J. McCarron, I'm not trying to take a shot by no means, okay? I'm not. I'm not. I'm a huge, gigantic fan of A.J. McCarron. But this little guy named Tua Tagovailoa can spin it here in T-Town.
Yeah, different type of player. A complete game-changing type of player because he can hurt you with his legs and he can fire it downfield. I mean, he's almost like I don't want to say a Michael Vick. He throws the ball better than Vick, I think, at that age. He doesn't run quite as well as Vick, so it's a little different type of player, but he gives him a dynamic where, I mean, he can put 6 points on the board in a heartbeat. I don't think anybody Alabama's had in a long time can do that or has been able to do that, A.J. included. A.J. is a system guy. He's a good drop back guy, but he's not near as crafty in the pocket and outside the pocket. He doesn't have the cannon arm as Tua, I don't think. And I just really think Tua's dynamic bring a whole nother level to Bama that we haven't seen. So I'm excited to watch him. I really am. I think the offense will be a lot more fun to watch. I think when you have a guy that can beat you down the field throws, it opens up a lot of short throws as well. So I think they'll use a lot of quick throws. His completion percentage will be really high because now teams are worried about them going over the top with all their speed and athleticism that they have out wide. He brings another dimension. And then when you have that deep threat, now you utilize the short passing game, and those little quick passes become big gains because for the athletes, again, break one tackle and go to the house. So it's going to be fun to watch. There's going to be a whole lot more offense than what you guys have been accustomed to there in Tuscaloosa just because of the threat of the pass. You
think defensive coordinators are hitting the panic button a little bit?
I would be, if I'm everybody else except, I think Georgia's probably got the talent to handle some of it. If you guys end up playing them in the SEC championship game again, I know you don't have them in the regular season, and that's probably the matchup that'll end up happening if everything kind of lays out the way we think it does. And I think they've got the athletes and they recruited well. I think they still might be another year away, but Georgia's coming. I think Alabama's going to be just really, really good football team this year, as they always are, but with that added element where they can just score at will, and we haven't seen that. Really in the Saban era where they could just score at will. So it's going to be fun to see what they do, and hopefully Tua will stay healthy. And they got the running back, so the running game will be great. It'll open everything up.
Hey, Josh, talk about what you're doing these days, man, because you always provide a lot of insight. I mean, I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. I just looked down at myself, and I'm going, I have pulled my chair up, and I'm almost about to fall out of this thing listening to everything that you say. But what are you doing these days? What are you up to?
Man, I do during football season. I do co-host radio shows. So I do get a chance to talk football. I talk to SEC. I have a radio show in Louisiana, and then I have an all-sports radio show in Southern California. I am actually in Austin, Texas today. My dad just accepted an athletic director position at a high school called Cornerstone Christian in North San Antonio. And my brother, Abram, who played with me at LSU, is the head football coach. So I'm here for a week and a half helping them with starting this new football program. And anybody that knows any of our history, my dad helped launch two high schools, one being Evangel Christian where I went, and of course had a lot of great players, a lot of NFL players come out of Evangel Christian, and then he also launched a school, Calvary Baptist in Shreveport, and gave actually Doug Peterson. It's a cool story. Doug Peterson, the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, my dad gave him his first job, and he was head coach at Calvary Baptist about 10 years ago, and he coached my youngest brother, Jack. So my dad is kind of that type of guy. He puts together programs from scratch, and that's what he's doing in San Antonio. And so I'm helping him here next couple of weeks while they're in spring ball, and then I'll go back to California, and we have a credit card processing company and some other things that I do. So just kind of all over the place, man, all across the board on what I do on a daily basis. But I sure love football.
Well, hey, Josh, thank you. The offseason is unique. It gives us a chance to stretch our legs, and we love talking the old college football tales.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for helping us connect with Nick Saban. And we love to be able to pick your brain, and we appreciate the 22 minutes that you gave us. Thank you again.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me anytime, guys. I appreciate it, buddy.